Smith, Stephen A. Smith. I don't know. Carrie and Carrie Champion. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming out. We appreciate it. We paid them to say that. No. Thank you guys for joining us again. Super Bowl week. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith. Gentlemen, can you shake hands or not so much? A pound.
I'm not going to get anybody sick today. I'm here, though. I'm ready to roll.
You're struggling. Okay, well, listen.
Before you go, Carrie,
yes,
I want to thank everybody who turned out in the cold today to be here. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seriously. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Seriously, we saw you out there this morning. We appreciate it. We also want to know, how many Broncos fans do we have in the house? All right. And what about Seahawks fans? By show of T-shirts, any Seahawks fans? Okay. All right, barely. Beast mode, kind of, sort of. Listen, we can talk about who wins the Super Bowl all week long. Coming up on the show, though, we have safety Antrel Rolle from the New York Giants. He'll be here. Comedian Mike Epps will be joining the deck. Eric Dickerson will be here. That's huge. And Tavon Austin. So let's just get it started. We have our first topic, so listen carefully, ladies and gentlemen. It was Media Day yesterday at the Prudential Center, and all eyes were on Richard Sherman because he's been so outspoken, but everyone wanted to know what Marshawn Lynch would or would not say. So let's take a listen.
I think people think, I'm just a loudmouth, angry guy who just calls people out, and I think that's the biggest misconception. I think if people really took the time to get to know me and learn about me, that they'd understand it's more to me than that rant.
I'm going to be satisfied with all this until it's all over. That's when I'll be satisfied. So until then, I still got work, but I appreciate this.
Oh, we done? I see Skittles in the crowd. There's Skittles in the crowd. I guess that's for Beast Mode. I appreciate it. Here's the question. Who handled themselves better yesterday on Media Day? Skip, I'll give it to you.
Stephen A. Smith, I thought Richard Sherman won Media Day yesterday, and I thought that Marshawn Lynch lost a great opportunity on Media Day. I believe that Richard Sherman has been absolutely brilliant. And to me, yesterday was a culmination, maybe a crescendo, of what I considered a 2-year campaign to talk himself from obscure fifth-round draft choice, playing way up there in the Pacific Northwest, into a household name. And he did so by trash-talking, attacking, challenging the great Tom Brady.
Sure.
And then who was next? We went down to Roddy White. And then it was Darrelle Revis. And then it was Michael Crabtree. And then yesterday, when he finally reached the pinnacle, the biggest stage in all of sports, with the worldwide media gathered here to talk to these players for an hour at a time, Richard Sherman threw me a curveball. He suddenly turned back into Mr. Nice Guy. It was absolutely calculatedly brilliant because he does have a good guy side and a bad guy side. We saw nothing but good guy yesterday. He was entertaining. He was insightful. He was Richard Sherman at his best. And yet, we saw Marshawn Lynch for 6 minutes and 30 seconds? Marshawn Lynch has a story to tell. I find him to be a very interesting and intriguing character. And I believe, Stephen A. Smith, 15 or 20 years from today, Marshawn will look back at his Media Day and regret that he didn't seize the opportunity the way his teammate Richard Sherman seized it.
Well, and let me preface my comments by saying that, I hope y'all can hear me, okay?
You're good.
All right. When you look at Richard Sherman, there's no doubt that he won Media Day. But I think the bigger story as it pertains to who won or lost Media Day is Marshawn Lynch. And I think it speaks to a bigger story as to why he lost. He lost Media Day. People can wave their Skittles all they want to, but they don't realize that those Skittles are indicative of the hypocrisy that comes along with a lot of these professional athletes. Here you are, you don't want to talk. You don't want to do anything but play football. You don't want anybody to know anything about you and all of that stuff. And that's clearly your right under normal circumstances. But if you are endorsing a product, then clearly you want somebody to know something about you, because you're certainly reaping the benefits of it. Marshawn Lynch walks around like all he wants to do is play football. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you he wants to get paid too. 4 years. $31 million. That's the contract he signed in March 2012. By the way, it's a guaranteed $18 million. Yes, you are paid that money to play football. But for all the youngsters out here sitting in this audience, watching it on television, please understand that there's a contract that you signed. And the contract that you signed also mandates and obligates you to conduct yourself in a relatively professional fashion when it comes to communicating. I think we need to make sure that we emphasize how ridiculous it is for people to act like asking or answering a questions about your job is tantamount to going to the dentist and having your teeth pulled without any kind of painkillers whatsoever. Yep. It's ridiculous, because what it does is, I was alarmed by it not because of Marshawn Lynch, but because of the response by his coach. He's such a major factor on our football team. But in this setting, he becomes somewhat of a recluse and doesn't want to be a part of it. We try and respect that as much as we can. So in other words, you're willing to make concessions. Well, guess what? Then what the hell were you talking to Richard Sherman for when he ran off at the mouth after blocking the pass that prevented Crabtree from catching the touchdown? What you said something to him for? Why didn't you leave him alone? Richard Sherman's not getting in trouble. Richard Sherman meets his media obligations. Yep. Richard Sherman does what he does, and by the way, he's just as important to that defense, some would say, as Marshawn Lynch is to the Seattle Seahawks offense. You said something to Richard Sherman, you reeled him in. Why? Because he opened his mouth and attacked a competitor and took attention away from his team. But Marshawn Lynch says nothing. He ignores his professional responsibilities. He gets fined $50,000, even though the NFL sat there and said we probably will rescind it. I'm not trying to make a big deal of it, because in the grand scheme of things, what we care about most is the game and how he performs. But it's important to be said, for all the youngsters out there, you have an obligation, and you know what that obligation is when you sign your contract. And whatever's on the dotted line is what the hell you're supposed to be doing. And Marshawn Lynch is not doing it. And that's really the problem, because Pete Carroll is letting him get away with it, but everybody jumped on Richard Sherman. There's a problem with that picture.
Okay. As I understand it, Marshawn has had a beef with his local media in Seattle.
Right.
I know that the great Stephen A. Smith has occasionally taken issue with things that have been written about him. So, should he carry that beef onto the Super Bowl Tuesday Media Day stage?
No.
Because you can't. Because you have an obligation to promote the great game that is the National Football League that is benefiting you per your contract and your Skittles endorsement that you just got.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's the whole point. Yeah. And that's exactly the point
there
that I'm trying to say. That can't be ignored. And all I'm trying to say is that Marshawn Lynch can walk off. And you know, I was listening to a whole bunch of pundits on the radio last night talking about who cares. It's no big deal. So what, he only stayed there for 6.5 minutes. He's absolutely right. Who cares? But that's not the point. There's a whole bunch of people that didn't give 2 cents about what Richard Sherman did, because it was in the heat of competition. It didn't stop this nation from talking about this. I mean, my God, I was on CNN answering questions about Richard Sherman. I work for ESPN, and that doesn't even count the 12 to 15 interviews I turned down from various networks who wanted to talk about Richard Sherman, all because he sat up there and said that Michael Crabtree is mediocre. But Marshawn Lynch gets to ignore his obligation, and we want to sit here and act like it's nothing. But Richard Sherman says something about an opponent, and we want to excoriate this dude. That's a problem.
Stephen A., you mentioned this, but Marshawn Lynch's fine may be rescinded. It was $50,000 for not speaking with the Seattle media. New topic. Former Miami Dolphin Johnathon Martin made headlines when he all but accused his former teammate Richie Incognito of bullying him. Well, he sat down for the first time with NBC Nightly News. Let's listen to what he had to say.
You know, I have no problem with the normal hazing that you see in the NFL. Get a haircut, but of a personal, attacking nature, I don't think there's any place for that. members of the organization knew that I was struggling. I had some conversations with my coaches immediately above me. I didn't get into specifics. You're not supposed to, quote-unquote, snitch on your teammates. I worked hard to be friends with Richie Incognito and others. I think it's important to build these friendships with your teammates. So I turned the microscope back on myself. What am I doing wrong that I'm being treated like this?
What is he doing wrong is his question. But my question for you, and I'll start with you, Stephen A., is what were your thoughts on what he had to say?
My thought was that Johnathon Martin came across as incredibly weak. I know that's not popular to say. When I care, I'll let you know. The fact of the matter is that, you know, when I look at him, a couple of things threw me off. And I understand that's not popular to say, and he was being interviewed by the great Tony Dungy, somebody we all have profound respect for. Yeah. But the reality is that when you look at the amount of time that it took him to finally sit down and talk about this, for me, Skip, that comes attached with a level of disingenuousness and all. I don't care what you have to say at this point. After you've been coached, after you've been prepped, after you've been prodded, and you know, and everybody is really schooling you on the right things to say. There's a level of authenticity that was required in this situation that I believe came from everybody but Johnathon Martin. I think it came from Richie Incognito, whether you're offended by it or not. The fact of the matter is when he sat down with Jay Glazer months ago, it was just days after this incident occurred. When you look at the Miami Dolphin teammates and what they were subjected to in terms of the inquiry that they had to deal with, the Inquisition, because of what had transpired, they spoke candidly and openly. But Johnathon Martin is going to come literally months later, a different year for crying out loud. You sit down with Tony Dungy, who is class personified, but one of the kindest individuals you'd ever want to meet. It's not as if this man is going to really interrogate you and really press you on what you decided to do and why you decided to go about doing it. And let me be very clear. In no way am I absolving those guys in the locker room from their treatment of Johnathon Martin. I especially took offense to the black dudes in the locker room that labeled Richie Incognito a quote-unquote honorary brother as if they get to define the definition of blackness. They got a lot of damn nerves. So I want to say that. But still in all, Johnathon Martin and how he conducted himself is a separate issue. Considering the spotlight he brought on Richie Incognito, how he may have ruined that man's career, considering the spotlight he brought on a Miami Dolphins organization, which he didn't hesitate to take a check from, considering the spotlight he brought to the NFL and what takes place in a locker room and how that may have very well changed the culture of the NFL. Johnathon Martin had an obligation to speak a hell of a lot sooner than he spoke. And I'm not I mean, come on, we know how I feel about the great Tony Dungy. But at the same time, if you want to sit there and talk about a hot seat, I don't consider Tony Dungy a hot seat. The man is class personified, one of the nicest human beings you'd ever meet, highly intelligent, knows the game of football. But in terms of this particular issue, Johnathon Martin needed to be front and center and legitimately pressed about exactly what he felt, why he came to the decision, why he elected to handle things in the manner that he did, and it needed to be sooner than yesterday. The fact that he's here right now on Super Bowl week, I think is as weak and pathetic as it gets. And as far as I'm concerned, the sympathy that I had for him before has diminished greatly.
I am completely with you on everything you just said. And I will add this. In truth, last night, when I first saw the headline pop up about Johnathon Martin, I had a momentary flash of, who is Johnathon Martin?
I know.
Seriously.
Yeah. No, for real.
Seriously.
That's
I
accurate.
could not for a minute remember who Johnathon Martin was. Out of sight, out of mind. So, in fairness, and we talked about this when it happened because there were reports that he went straight into a hospital for a stay in the hospital. If he had emotional issues because of what was done to him in the locker room, the way he was treated or mistreated, I respect that. There are also reports, suggestions that Johnathon Martin had fallen out of love with the game of football and just didn't really want to play it anymore. If that's the truth, I respect the heck out of that. But as you say, don't wait 3 long months, then come to us during Super Bowl week as, by the way, a 2-year teammate of Richard Sherman's at Stanford. Don't come to us sitting across from Tony Dungy answering what I assume, I haven't seen the rest of the interview, are mostly softballish kind of questions, not tough questions, and expect all of us out here to suddenly have sympathy for the way you felt trapped in the Dolphins locker room. Because I'm not sure anybody's really going to care. If you really wanted us to care, you had to speak at that moment back around Halloween when this first broke. And if you wanted to protect your football career, your future in the National Football League, and I'm pretty sure it will not be, from what the owner said yesterday, with the Dolphins. Right. If you wanted to protect your future, you needed to explain then what happened and why it happened in your view. Because right now, I'm not sure our audience here really, really cares about whoever the heck Johnathon Martin was.
Remember, I feel where you're coming from, but it goes far deeper than that. Because I think that we need to remind ourselves, as a black man, we had a conversation about race. We had a conversation about what defines blackness. We had a conversation about a lot of things that made us as a nation very, very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And Johnathon Martin was at front and center as the instigator for that conversation because of the decision that he made to leave the team and how he elected to handle it. Richie Incognito is heinous, as insidious as his behavior appeared.
I agree.
You have an abundance of dudes in that locker room, both black and white, that stood up and vouched for this man, and that man was raked through the coals by me, by Tom Jackson, by Keyshawn Johnson and Sunday NFL. Incognito and others, okay? All I'm saying to you is think about the magnitude of this. All of this is going on, and you, Johnathon Martin, and you sitting back chilling and watching this and say nothing. While this man, this organization, and the league to some degree were put in the line of fire. You said and did nothing. As a black man, if I'm going to sit up there and I'm going to have a problem with Richie Incognito and I'm going to have a problem with his behavior and I'm going to have a problem with the brothers that tried to say he was an honorary brother when I heard him say the things that he said, how could I not have a problem with Johnathon Martin, who had an opportunity to address it authentically or to leave it alone, and he did neither, but go show his face on the week of the Super Bowl? I'm sorry. I don't like it.
All right, Dolphins owner, and you said this, Skip Bayless, Stephen Ross was asked if either Incognito or Martin would return to the team, and his first reaction was he did not think so.
Slip of tongue,
and then he tried to retract it, but it was the honest point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, live in New York City for Super Bowl week, Celsius Restaurant. The crowd is stupendous today. The atmosphere, electric. We could not ask for anything more, except for our very next guest, friend of Fīrst Take, Mike Epps, comedian Mike Epps. Thanks for being here. So we got to hold you accountable. Hey, hold on.
One second.
You want to get out of it.
Allow me to say.
What are you going to say?
I have great respect for Mr. Epps as an actor and a comedian.
Oh,
Thank
boy.
you, sir. I appreciate that.
Here we go. Just
leave it at that, Skip. Don't say nothing else after that.
I do not apologize for anything I'm about to say to Mike Epps.
Okay, well let me bless you with a little something right there.
That's sweet.
I know you're under the weather, Steve. That's a little something for the head.
Yeah. Thank
this is for you, darling.
That's sweet.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate
New Era
that.
caps, you know what I'm saying? And I got that in blue for you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, listen, you picked the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl. Explain yourself. Make your case.
You know what? We all know that the defense wins the Super Bowls, and the Seahawks are definitely, they're gonna put that 3-4 on Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning is a ex-Colts football player, and I witnessed Peyton Manning play in the Super Bowls and in championships against New England, and I can contest that he's not that good in the cold weather.
Wow.
Those corners are.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
I can respect where you're coming from because of his overall record in the postseason, even though he did deliver India a Super Bowl championship.
He did.
But am I supposed to believe that you sitting up here today, this morning, and you have no subjectivity whatsoever? You're completely objective about Peyton Manning after leaving your team?
No,
Am I supposed to believe that?
No, we appreciate Peyton Manning.
You don't seem to appreciate him.
Come on, man. I was there when Peyton Manning showed up in Indianapolis. We appreciate everything Peyton Manning did for the Colts, but I mean, we got to go with the young, hungry defensive team, man. Seattle is young, they hungry. Them corners ain't playing. Richard Sherman, he's hyped, and I like to see him win.
Okay.
And in the cold weather, the horse going to need a weave.
Okay, so listen, whatever that means. Listen, Skip's been bullish about this on the show. He says that the Colts have made a huge mistake when they got rid of Peyton and brought in Luck. I need you to make the case. Convince him why Luck is the future for the Colts.
Luck is the future of the Colts because Luck is what Peyton Manning was before Peyton Manning became Peyton Manning. When Peyton Manning showed up in Indianapolis, that's what Luck is right now. And it's going to take time for him to come through with what he's got to come through with. But you can best believe we made a great decision when we let Peyton Manning go forward and go to Denver. And now we have somebody that's new, fresh, that's going to come with it. And I guarantee you we're going to get us a couple Super Bowls out of Luck.
Oh, you sound.
We ran out of luck a little bit, but we coming back.
You ran a lot out of luck.
And objective. I'm pleased with that analysis.
Uh-huh.
All right, go ahead, Skip.
Mr. Epps, do you realize what you're saying? You're saying you were better off in Indianapolis without a quarterback whom you suspected was washed up. Your owner thought was done. The doctors of the Indianapolis Colts said, nah, we don't want to risk this. This man came off 4 neck procedures and proceeded to turn not just back into Peyton Manning, beyond Peyton Manning. He has taken 2 straight teams. Wait a second. 2 teams to 13-3 and the number 1 seed in the AFC. This man is coming off a record 55 touchdown passes and a record number of yards. And he is in his wake. And I'm going to give Andrew Luck a little bit of a break here. But I am sick and tired of people trying to rush Andrew Luck into Canton, Ohio, into the Hall of Fame when he was second in the NFL in turnovers last year, and in 2 playoff games this year threw 7 interceptions, including 4 in Foxborough in pretty cold weather. Maybe he's got a cold weather problem.
Hey, he's still young. I can't take nothing from Peyton Manning. You're right. He's broke a lot of records. He can possibly make history. I mean, we just got a young quarterback that's, he's got a lot of years left. We're talking 2 years versus 10 years. This is a guy that's got 10 years to prove what he can do.
So not one time this year did you ever wake up one Monday morning and think, man, if we just still had Peyton right now, we'd have a way better shot at a Super Bowl.
We didn't do bad this year.
You were okay.
We didn't do bad this year.
But who would you have given a better shot, Peyton or Luck? Well, come on.
I'll tell you what. Next year, we got next year to come and many more years, and we got a new, fresh quarterback, not taking nothing from Peyton Manning. We love Peyton Manning. We love what he did for the city of Indianapolis, but we watched him year after year take us all the way to the top and not close.
Okay. And maybe he won't close this time, which is why you're picking Seattle, because you're picking it with your heart. It's a little bit of wishful thinking, because it would kill you to see Peyton win another Super Bowl.
We got a great defense. The defense wins Super Bowls, Skip. You know that every year.
But you know what I say? Defense wins championships, but points win games.
You're right.
Don't your offense has to score something? Doesn't Russell Wilson and Golden Tate and the Beast, Marshawn Lynch, don't they have to score?
They got to score, but once the defense take Peyton Manning out of his element and take him out of his rhythm, hey, man.
He has struggled in the postseason. He's 11-11 in the postseason. He let you down with a pick 6 against the New Orleans Saints in that Super Bowl that iced it for the Saints. I give you all the above. But I said when he got pushed out the back door in Indianapolis, which I thought was the biggest mistake that franchise will ever make, I said that for the next 3 years, which would have been last year, this year, and next year, Peyton would have given you a far better chance to win it all than young Luck would give you. And Peyton is now saying he slipped yesterday and said, I'm still in the middle of my career. He's talking about playing 2 or 3 more years beyond what I thought he would be able to play. So what if he were a Colt? What if he still had the horseshoe on the side of his helmet? I think you would be happier than you are with Andrew Luck.
I can't agree. I mean, it's the young versus the old, you know? And I'd rather go with somebody young and fresh who's got skills.
He does have skills.
He's got skills. He took the Colts all the way to the playoffs this year. I mean, you know.
Bottom line is that Andrew Luck is no scrub. Andrew Luck is no scrub. They've been in the postseason the last 2 years. And, oh, by the way, long after Peyton Manning retires, Andrew Luck is going to be around. They did not make the pick. They did not pick Andrew Luck because he was better than Peyton Manning. They picked 15 to 20 years over 3 to 5.
And you know, I always tell you, it's a win-now league. Well, I'll take 3 years over 15 years.
Now, I'm taking the 15 because I believe that Andrew Luck is going to win a couple of rings inside of 15 years.
Well, let's move on to the association and talk about his Pacers. Right now, they're in the top spot in the Eastern Conference. So is this the year that they beat Miami in the finals?
This is the year. Shout out to my Indiana Pacers. Shout out to Paul George, Lance Stevenson, Hibbert, Hill. You know, shout out to Granger being back. I think the Pacers are a little bit more confident this year. I definitely think in the last 2 minutes of every championship heat game in the playoffs, we got to step it up and definitely believe in ourselves. But I think this is the year.
Okay. So that's a yes.
Yeah, that's a yes. Of course it's a yes.
All right.
Without a doubt. We the Heat beaters.
Time out, because you sound like Dear Abby. Let me take this, right? I'm going to say this. Let's put it to you this way. This is the bottom line. You know how I've been raving about the Pacers.
Right.
I think the Pacers are big time. I even watched them when they got ramrodded by the Phoenix Suns last week, and I'm still not worried about them. They've got all the pieces necessary. They will have the number 1 seed. They're going to have home field advantage. I'm still not going to make my pick who's coming out of the East because obviously it's between Indiana and Miami, but I am going to say this. With or without D-Wade, I believe the Pacers have arrived enough to a point where it's going to take LeBron being Jordan-esque to stop them.
That's right.
Indiana is that legit.
That's
right. They are coming. They can not only get out the East, the Indiana Pacers can win the world championship. They got the pieces to do it.
Year. We got
but that's what's going to have to happen.
Come on.
But LeBron can stop them. LeBron can stop them. LeBron can stop them. Kevin Durant can stop them. But it's going to take that.
On this issue, I am with Mike Epps. I am starting to become a believer in your basketball team as opposed to your football team.
Okay.
And I'm starting to listen to my man Stephen A. because I was skeptical before the year started, and I kept saying, Paul George is going to have to become a superstar this year.
And he's doing it.
He is becoming that guy.
He's playing AAU ball. He's throwing it behind his back. And he's playing with these boys right now.
He had a bad game at Staples last night, but I'm going to give him that one because they still won easily. I think he's 4 for 21, but that doesn't happen very often.
And you can take the Lakers for granted because they don't play any defense.
I completely agree. But in this case, with the home court, it is going to be tough for LeBron James unless D-Wade really turns back into 100% D-Wade. I'm starting to think you've been angling to the right side all the time and that you're going to be right about your Pacers.
Indiana Pacers, man, all the way. We love the rest of the league, but it's our time. I mean, we got every piece, every component that it takes to win a championship. We got Danny Granger back.
Yep.
We got Lance Stevenson jumping out of the ceiling.
All right.
And by the way, y'all, one other thing. You have not seen the best of the Pacers. No. You have not seen the best of them. They are going to amp it up to another level. I'm trying to tell you, the thing about it is that even though we see these stars in the league, sometimes you don't see the very best they have to offer until their backs are pressed against the wall. I'm telling you right now, you might end up seeing greatness from LeBron James you have never witnessed before, because it's going to take that to beat Indiana. Indiana is not losing to anybody mediocre or anybody devoid of their A game. They're just too good.
All right, speaking of LeBron and the Heat, huge game tonight, OKC Miami. I'm asking you, who gets the better in the MVP showdown? Is it going to be Durant or is it going to be LeBron?
KD is killing it. I love LeBron, but right now KD is on one. You know, tonight is going to be, you know, definitely a showcase to see which one of those guys is going to step it up. And I think KD is on one this year. He's another one that's like Paul George. That's just he's trying to prove himself. We see LeBron every year. We see LeBron commercials. We see LeBron. These two guys are looking to prove a point in the NBA, and they hungry, and they're the underdogs. So when you're the underdog, you have nothing but room to grow.
KD needs to be that MVP candidate tonight. He needs to take this stage to put everybody on notice that he's coming for what LeBron James has. KD needs to do that tonight. LeBron doesn't need this. KD needs this tonight.
Which is why I think KD will win the battle tonight, but not the game. The individual battle, but not the game.
I'm excited. I love this crowd. Skip, do you love this crowd? Just say yes. Just say yes. Just say yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. He can't hear. Our next guest won Super Bowl 46 with the Giants. We welcome in safety Antrel Rolle. Thank you so much for being here. You're here on behalf of the Northwest Company. You guys are keeping, the Northwest Company specifically, keeping people warm on Super Bowl Sunday. So you have some gifts for us.
Yeah, we do. We're going to keep you all warm also.
Okay.
You know,
well, what's in here? What do we get? Here, this is for you.
We have the official NFL new hand warmers.
And
on behalf of Northwest,
a
blanket.
Okay, so look, we're getting so many gifts.
Skip, you can snuggle with at night.
You can snuggle at night with this.
I think our crowd could have used the blankets.
I know, earlier today. We might pass these out. We'll give them away. I'll put mine here. Yeah, we'll give them away. I'll put it right here. All right, listen. So before we went to break, I have to hold you accountable. We're putting you on the hook here. You actually said the Seahawks would win the Super Bowl. Explain yourself and make it a good case.
Well, I had to choose them, being that I really didn't have a choice. I'm not siding with either team, but I'm a defensive guy, and I study defense, and I understand that offense scores points, but defense wins games. So, I'm a fan of Seattle defense and how they play, but more importantly, I'm a fan of their intensity, their swagger, their chemistry. That's something that can't be broken.
All right.
So I understand all that, and I appreciate swag, but I also appreciate ability. You ain't talking about just Peyton Manning. You're talking about Wes Welker. You're talking about Eric Decker. You're talking about Julius and Demaryius Thomas. You're talking about Noshawn Moreno. You're talking about legitimately 5 bona fide weapons. This ain't 1 or 2 dudes you got the key on with Denver's offense. This is 5 bona fide dudes Seattle's going to have to contend with. How do you stop that?
Well, playing both the safety and the cornerback position, I know that one thing receivers do not like is when you go up there and you put your hands on them. And that's something that a receiver doesn't like, and that's something that a quarterback doesn't like. So when you disrupt the timing, I don't care if it's a Drew Brees, I don't care if it's a Peyton Manning, I don't care if it's Eli Manning, I don't care if it's Tom Brady. You're going to have problems, and that's exactly what Seattle defense does.
Well, Skip keeps making the point that Peyton Manning, forget about him being sacked, he hasn't been touched. So in other words, they're doing a great job of protecting him, and he's doing a great job of getting rid of the football. How you going to negate that?
Well, you keep it coming. You keep it coming, and like I say, when you negate that, when you disrupt the timing, if Peyton looks to his left and that receiver's being jammed up, you know what he does? He has to go to his second read, then his third read. So when you have all those guys playing hands-on defense, and then you have Chancellor and Earl Thomas coming down flying, being ball hawks that they are, you're in for a battle. I'm not going against Peyton. I think Peyton has proven that, he is, the best quarterback in this league right now. And, with those receivers, Demaryius Thomas, Wes Welker, Eric Decker, those guys have been playing out of their mind. So, I'm not saying that they're not capable or they're not worthy of that pick also. I'm just going with what I know, which is defense.
And because you are one of the better defensive backs in this league, a former 8th pick overall in the draft, I need your response, your critique of what Dominic Cromartie said yesterday about his top 5 defensive backs excluding in his top 5 one Richard Sherman of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, he did respect his elders, did DRC, and he went Champ, Asante, and even threw in Charles Woodson for his first 3. And then he went Rivas and Antonio Cromartie. Certainly you have high regard for both, but no Richard Sherman in his top 5. Your response?
Well, I think that's why he's DRC, I'm Antrel Rolle. DRC is like a little brother to me. I think he can be one of the best cornerbacks in this league. I mean, the most talented athlete I've ever seen out there on the football field.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
No question about it.
And he's talking about retiring.
He doesn't mean it.
He doesn't mean it. He took it back. He took it back.
We know he's full of it on that one, but go ahead.
But, when you talk about Richard Sherman, his game, everyone, gets on him about being so outspoken and, maybe, above and beyond, which, I don't disagree. But at the same time, it's all about what you do between those white lines. And that guy produces. He plays ball. And the thing I like most of all about Richard Sherman is playing that cornerback position, you're going to get beat from time to time. Very rarely does he get beat. But even when he does get beat, he has amnesia, which is something that at the cornerback position you must have because you have to forget it and drive on. And that's something that he does very well. And even if he gets beat, he comes back and he makes another play to make up for that.
So he would be in your top 5 corners or defensive backs?
He'll be in my top 3 corners right now in this league. My top 2 corners in this league right now.
Who's one?
Right now, to be honest with you, what he's done over the last couple of years, he might be my number 1 corner in this league right now.
Rivas coming off knee surgery.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going based off his ball skills, the way he attacks the ball in the air, and, just the way he plays the ball, period. I think he has phenomenal ball skills. I think he accepts any challenges thrown his way. And like I say, I don't know Richard Sherman at all, on a personal level, but I am a fan of football, and I do respect talent. I do respect grind. And, he's a football player.
Forgive me if I'm a bit ignorant with this question, but I must ask, based on what you just said about Richard Sherman, who do you put him on if you're Denver? Everybody just assumes it's Demaryius Thomas. I'm thinking if you're going to put that kind of heat on Peyton Manning the way you said they should, you're not going to have an opportunity to throw the long ball. Now, obviously, you do drop-offs to Demaryius, and he's got that kind of athletic ability. But at the same time, usually in a scenario like that, you're looking for your tight end. Can you see a situation where Richard Sherman could end up on Julius a little bit? I don't see it, but I just want to ask.
I don't think there'll be a need for that. I don't think there'll be a need for them to put Richard Sherman on Julius. I think Seattle linebackers do a great job of covering. Then you have Cam Chancellor that can go down there and cover. You have Earl Thomas that can go down there and cover. So I think with Richard Sherman being on Demaryius Thomas will be their best matchup. It's going to make Peyton force the ball elsewhere, and if he decides to throw at Demaryius Thomas, that'll be a great battle.
Do you think it's going to be single coverage? Do you see a scenario where Richard Sherman's going to have help, or do you think Pete Carroll's going to put him out on an island and Richard Sherman's going to be like, I got this, let me handle this man by myself?
Knowing the confidence that Sherman has, I believe that, he will say, I got it, until otherwise. If he's starting to get picked on or he's not holding up his end of the deal, then I'm sure, they'll rock and roll the coverage his way. But initially, I will expect to see one-on-one single coverage.
Okay, you've moved from corner, obviously, to safety. Rank safeties for us.
Yeah.
Would you go Cam and Earl Thomas 1-2 or 2-1 in safeties in the National Football League?
Excluding myself?
Including yourself. It's up to you. Give us it.
Well, I definitely see myself and Earl Thomas being up there as 1-2, 2-1, however you want to look at it. Right now, based off this season alone, I'm a huge fan of all those guys. Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor. I think Cam Chancellor played his best game I've ever seen him play last week against San Francisco.
Really?
That dude played ball. He played ball.
And he will lay the wood on people.
No question. Whew. No question about it. He played ball. And, there's a lot of other guys out there, that plays ball, that flies around that safety, that you always see them in the mix. And but right now, if you go 1-2, I'll go Earl Thomas, myself, Earl Thomas, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to dismiss that because I watched you play this year, and to be quite honest with you, you're the only daggone bright spot for the New York Giants. I'm
That
still
is
so
true.
disgusted with this team, but
Yeah.
I'll talk to you about that later. I got to ask you this, though. When you talk about a defense and you talk about the fact that you're giving Seattle the edge in this encounter, is it just because their defense are studs, or is it because of how familiar you are with MetLife Stadium, the conditions, the imminent inclement weather they're alluding to, and you expect that to have an impact on Peyton Manning, or is it simply that you think this defense is ferocious?
Well, it has nothing to do with the weather whatsoever.
Okay.
I think, it's not, the weather's not going to play a factor against any team. I think, Denver has played in this weather before. They always say, Peyton Manning can't play this and that. He throws that glove on, then he's surgical with that glove.
Right.
And then, Seattle, obviously, they play in this weather all the time. I think it's just merely based off of myself being a fan of football and breaking down football and knowing what Denver is capable of doing and what Seattle's capable of doing. Now, I'm not a fan of Seattle's offense. That's the only part that's scaring me, that also, that raises concerns to me. I'm not a fan of their offense. I don't feel they have as many weapons. I feel like the offense goes through Marshawn Lynch and Russell Wilson, and I'm a huge fan of Denver's offense. But like I say, I'm a defensive guy, so I might be a little biased. So I go with defense, and I choose Seattle's defense.
Antrel, one report last night had winds this Sunday night in a stadium you know very well, up to 20 miles per hour.
Yeah.
You don't think that would mess with Peyton's psyche a little bit?
Well, there's going to be quarterbacks on both sides of the ball. So I think it might mess with both their psyche a little bit. But, the game still has to be played. No matter what the wins are, the game still has to be played. So then you go to who has the most effective running game. Are you going to take Marino, or are you going to take Marshawn Lynch? I'll let y'all choose.
Let me switch subjects before we get on out of here. I happen to know this brother right here knows a little bit about the game of basketball.
A little bit.
That's where I usually see him, and it's usually in South Beach. Let me ask you this question. They got a game tonight, LeBron and Miami versus KD, and Oklahoma City. Who has the bigger game tonight, LeBron or Durant?
You know what? I love Durant. I love Durant. I love Durant's game. I love his attitude. But if you give me 100 guys, I'm never going to take anyone over LeBron. And that's just that.
That's real.
I mean, he's that staple. He's that dude. And, when he start doing this number here, watch out.
That's it. And it's a wrap.
Watch out. It's a wrap.
All right. He's not going against. He's picking LeBron.
Durant is coming.
So
I'm just telling y'all.
All right.
LBJ will be there too.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's about 20 degrees in New York City. It's pretty warm in here, though. We're at the Celsius restaurant at Bryant Park, and we're enjoying ourselves. Things are getting ready to heat up. We have Antonio Cromartie, Jets corner, here joining us. Before we went to break, thank you for joining us, first of all. Happy to have you here.
No problem.
We noticed that you picked the Broncos. Might there be some type of family reasons for your decision?
No, family reasons don't play into it at all.
Seriously?
Seriously, it really don't. I mean, I really do think the Broncos are going to win this game just from the skill, from every skill position. If you look at their offense and what they do, from Eric Decker to Demaryius Thomas to Julius Thomas to Wes Welker that's going to be in the slot, I don't think Seattle has enough on the defense side of the ball to cover those guys. And also, when you have a running back that's coming out of the backfield that's catching the ball, and Marshawn Marino, and also you have a ball that's coming out of the backfield also, it just opens up the offense a lot more.
You're the first defensive player that I heard say that Seattle's defense doesn't have enough to defend Denver's offense. Because my whole thinking is why I lean towards Denver, and I haven't made my decision yet, but why I lean towards Denver is because I got serious questions about Seattle's offense. I don't know if they can score, and that if they can really, really put up. I don't see any defense holding Denver to less than 24 to 28 points in a game of this magnitude, and I don't see Seattle's offense being able to put up that many.
Well, that's another thing. That's what I'm real big on. I'm really big on Seattle's offense. I think Seattle offense has a trouble getting the ball and dunking down the field. They can't do that. They live off big plays. If you look at the previous games that they played against San Fran, they got 3 big plays. It was a 51-yard catch by, I think, Baldwin. Then you had the 40-some-yard touchdown run by Marshawn. It's big plays. If they don't make big plays, they cannot win ball games. So if Denver can eliminate the big players of the Seattle's offense, then I think Denver has a better chance at winning this ball game and winning big.
So you're saying that Denver's receivers will consistently win over Seattle's defensive backs?
I think so. I really do. I mean, if you look at the scheme that the Seattle's run, it's a cover 3 scheme. Guys are always press belling. They always want to be over the top, so they're going to give you things underneath. It's not a true tight coverage man-to-man tight defense. It's everyone's dropping. Linebackers get to see everything. They let their front four do the pass rushing, and I think Denver's offensive line can hold up on the side of the ball. And I think when you get the guys, Wes Welker, getting them in the slot, getting them on one-on-ones with Cam Chancellor, a guy like that trying to cover a smaller guy, it's gonna draw a lot of attention to that guy. And then you have the two big guys on the outside. You got Eric Decker and you got Demaryius Thomas. You can't cover both of them. So what are you gonna do? So that's the thing that's gonna create trouble for Seattle.
One of the things I've been monitoring is that everybody's been talking about how Seattle gets up in your face. Mm-hmm. They'll man up, they'll get in you, they'll try to punk you and what have you, and Denver could potentially be exposed to that. I don't see that happening in the Super Bowl, but I will say this. If you can put a hat on Peyton Manning enough, a la Tom Brady, you can make them tap dance like the late, great Gregory Hines, God rest his soul. So for me, that is a factor. I wonder, though, because of the bravado they say Seattle has, do you believe that could work against Seattle because they're going to try to get up in Peyton Manning's face? He ain't going to respond to that. He's just going to be a surgeon and pick them apart.
He's always going to be the surgeon. I think if you can protect Peyton as much as they did the last two playoff games, it shows what the guy can do. And I think the biggest thing is to understand what kind of guy Peyton is. He's like you say, he's a surgeon. He's a guy that pays attention to detail and knows what defense you're going to be in. If he looks at a defensive back and he figures out the stance that you're in, he's going to know exactly what kind of defense you're in. He can know by the defense end, he can know by the linebackers exactly what they're going to do. So it's just a point of understanding what he's going to do, and also his receivers have to be on the same page. So once they're on the same page, once things start going like this and ticking, it's over.
All right, let's talk about your cousin, DRC, as he was called by Antrel Rolle. He listed the top 5 corners yesterday in Media Day. You were one of them. Darrelle Revis, Champ Bailey, Asante Samuel, and Charles Woodson. Richard Sherman off the list. Your reaction?
I mean, that's his opinion. I will put Sherman in my list. I put him in the top 5. I put him in the top 5 on my list. And I think this is what he's done over the past 2 years. 16 interceptions. Those numbers speak for itself. He don't just get those numbers just because it's just there. I think he's been a playmaker. I think this year, to me, this year alone, he's been the best corner in the NFL this year alone, hands down. He wants to call himself the best defensive back in the league, but I still get that to Darrelle Revis.
Do you?
I still gonna get that to him. I believe that this year alone that Richard Sherman has put himself in that category of putting himself up there as being named one of the best defensive back. But this year he has been this year.
Let's talk about your team. How surprised were you that Rex got an extension?
It wasn't too much being surprised. It was just been the excitement that was there. It was all on us. There was games that during the season that we should have won. We should have beat New England twice. And there's games that we should have won, but we didn't. And, to finish out the way we did from last year, the way we finished, going 6-10, losing the last game of the year. Coming into this year, we win the last 2 games of the season. It just shows you what this team can be. And I think when you, from the defensive standpoint, we have the guys that's there. We just want to add the weapons on the offensive side to get Geno the weapons on the outside, because I think we do have a good running game with Chris Ivory and also with Bilal Powell.
Well, I appreciate you pointing out consistently that you got what you need on the defensive side of the ball, because we know good and damn well y'all don't have it on offense. Okay, now let me get down to the nitty-gritty. When I look at this defense, I have no questions about you guys. You know how I feel about you. We go back a long ways, and you really, really stepped up and proved how valuable you were when Revis went down the season before last. But I got to say this. I am of the mindset that even though I'm happy Rex Ryan got his extension, I also look at it and say, you are the head coach. when are you going to take responsibility for how pathetic your offense is? He is the head coach. Y'all need help on the offense. When can we look at Rex Ryan and say, you know what, can you give, first it was Sanchez, now it's Geno. Can you get him some receivers? Can you make us a favor?
Well, I think the biggest thing the biggest thing to look at, last year we couldn't do anything. Free agency, we couldn't do nothing. We didn't have any cap space.
Okay.
We couldn't do nothing. You coming into a year now where we're looking at right now, I think we're $21 million under the cap. And now that's there's certain things that may go a long way. Maybe $40-some million underneath the cap. So now you have something to play with. Now you can go out and go get the big name guys to add the weapons on the outside for the guy of Geno, for he can mature more and become a better quarterback that we need him to be.
By the way, I'm not going to let you get away with saying that you should have beaten New England
waiting.
twice.
I was like, what is the problem?
I'm trying to be a nice guy.
I didn't understand that.
The bogus call that you got at your stadium, leverage on that. Well, what was that called? Leverage? Well, what was it? Tom Brady was about to win the football game.
Win what game?
New England should have beaten you both times.
What game?
Where did this come from?
What game?
What was this call? Some call had never been made before in a game.
Tell the rookie never to line up over the center. That's the rule.
I'm sorry. All right, next question.
All right, listen, we're talking about, you done? You good? You're okay with that?
Yeah, I just had to get that off my chest.
Let's switch and talk about basketball, shall we?
Let's go.
All right, big game tonight, OKC Miami. And it's not so much about the game, but about the two MVPs, or people who seem to be in the MVP race right now. LeBron, Kevin Durant. Who has the bigger game tonight?
I'm going to go with my boy LeBron James. I think he's going to have a bigger game. I think he's a guy that's he's gotten mentally and physically stronger and better at his game. And a lot of people want to give him a lot of harp because he doesn't take over the game as much as over a Kobe Bryant or maybe a Kevin Durant. Yeah. He has guys that's around him that can score also. So he tries to create opportunities for those guys to score. He does take over a game. I seen him take over a game when he beat the Celtics. When he came out and scored.
Oh, that's saying a lot.
Well, that night it was a lot.
That night was a lot. That was game 6?
Saved the day,
He saved the day.
Let's be clear. LeBron James is the best player in the world. Nobody's refuting that. However, I want to make sure I point this out. LeBron James, obviously because he had been practicing his 2 weeks of hell and all of that stuff before the season, didn't do that this year, got married, went on a honeymoon, had 2 separate trips, didn't come in the shape that he was. He has slipped defensively. This is going to be motivation for him tonight. I hope he's listening because he slipped defensively. Yes. He's been somewhat of a liability. Do you realize that the Miami Heat defense has been better without him than they have been with him in recent weeks? So, tonight, with that being said, and KD coming in the house, having 11 straight games with plus 30, I'm predicting number 12 is tonight. KD will drop about 35. All right? And now, what LeBron does. But I'm telling y'all something right now. Game going to be tight. I think KD, I might go for 40 for KD.
40?
I'm trying to tell you.
Wow.
How about 45?
Stop it, Skip. Stop it, Skip.
Y'all stop that.
So rude.
Stop it. Stop.
I'm just telling you.
Stephen A.
I'm just telling you.
Y'all stop it. We already know who's going to win the game. Okay. The Heat going to win the game.
The bowl games are done, but the college football season is far from over. As National Signing Day approaches, a frenzied cross-country competition for defensive studs and quarterbacks is taking place. ESPN Insider's Recruiting Nation lets you know which playmakers and game changers are heading to your favorite college campus, and if maybe one of them can help make next year your year. Behind the scenes, beyond the headlines before it happens, ESPN Insider, your way in. Visit ESPN.com/insider.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dickerson, Hall of Famer, or just Famer, joins the desk again. He is an athlete who hears what he wants to hear. You're here on behalf of Beats by Dre. We're so happy to have you here. Can you hear me?
I cannot hear. I hear you.
You hear what you want to hear.
I hear you now. I hear you now.
Okay.
I hear you now.
He's here on behalf of Beats by Dre. We thank you so much for being here.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
So let's talk about that pick'em board. Seahawks, huh?
Well, as I was telling Stephen A., I just feel like the Seahawks are a little bit more physical. I think they're more physical. I think they'll come to play. I think everyone looks at the Broncos, and I think the Broncos really, you think the Broncos go as Peyton goes. I don't think their defense is as physical as the Seahawks, and I just think the Seahawks are hungrier. They've been there, they've never won it. And also, I'm an NFC guy at heart. I'm an NFC guy at heart, so I got to go with the NFC. I like the running game. I like the beast. So
you like beast mode?
I like beast mode.
Like I was telling Eric, even though I haven't selected my pick yet, the reason why it's so difficult for me to go with Seattle is because I'm asking myself two questions. Can the Seattle Seahawks limit Denver's high-powered offense? Number one, in passing, number one in points, number one in yards. Can you limit Peyton Manning and that offense with 5 targets to 21 points or less? Can you do that, number one? And number two, since I believe the answer to that is no, can you, Seattle, score more than 21 points?
But can the Denver Broncos stop the Seahawks running game? That's another question. And one thing about football is, when you run the football, you set the tone, because all of a sudden the defensive line up front, the linebackers, they get hit in the mouth a lot, and they get frustrated. And if you run the football, I just believe Seattle will run the football, and I think that will be the difference in this football game. And they will hit.
That boy Knighton's a big boy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call him. That's a big boy. Just clogs everything up on that defensive line for Denver.
Okay. Like I said,
the Hall of Fame running back that you are, I'm pleasantly surprised how much you like Marshawn Lynch. Are you starting to see an all-time great back?
I think he's a really good back right now. I think he's a good back. I don't say great, because I hate to use that word with people, but I think they use that word too freely to call somebody great. But I think he's very, very good. I think he's hard to stop. He's a guy that when you get hit by him, you don't want to get hit again. It's like most defensive players, they hit, but they don't want to be hit. And a running back, we take a lot of punishment, and when we get a chance to dish it out, like Marshawn does, it's good for him, and it's good for his offensive line and the team. I think that's why I think they'll win the game.
Do you see any Earl Campbell operating there?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Do you?
Most definitely some Earl Campbell. And if you've seen the Earl Campbell highlights, you know what I'm talking about.
I mean, Earl Campbell from the Houston Oilers, what that man used to do.
I hope Marshawn doesn't wind up the way Earl used to do.
I don't think he'll wind up like Earl, but because they have a few more weapons than the Houston Oilers had back in those days. But I see some Earl Campbell, and that's a good analogy, an Earl Campbell type back.
I'll go back to the Denver Broncos. Peyton Manning, Wes Welker, Julius Thomas, Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, and by the way, no Sean Moreno can run the football a little bit too. I mean, you really see Seattle's defense neutralizing this offense to a significant degree?
I just believe it's going to be some turnovers in this football game. The weather could play a factor. I mean, Denver does play outside. Seattle plays outside. I think the turnover factor will be big. And anytime you can hit any quarterback, I don't care who it is. If you hit a quarterback enough times, they get rattled. Peyton Manning, the best of the best. If you hit them enough times, they get rattled.
I totally agree with that, because I've seen Tom Brady and Peyton Manning tap dance. But for me, Peyton Manning hasn't been touched, as Skip keeps pointing out. Never get sacked. He hasn't been touched this postseason. Somebody's doing something right, whether it's him getting rid of the football quicker, that offensive line protecting him.
I think it's both. I think it's him getting rid of the football fast and they're protecting him. But I believe the Seahawks will get a chance to get to him some. And if they get in his face, it's not always about hitting him. It's about getting in his face, getting your rhythm off. You'll have that, and everything is about timing. You throw his timing off just a little bit. That's all it takes.
All right, listen, so let's switch topics for just a moment. Johnathon Martin, you remember him, made national news, played for the Dolphins, said that his former teammate Richie Incognito was all but bullying him and a little more than that. Well, he hasn't spoken since the height of that story, and today, or yesterday rather, he spoke to NBC. So I want you to listen and we'll get your reaction from that, okay?
I have no problem with the normal hazing that you see in the NFL. Get a haircut, but of a personal attacking nature, I don't think there's any place for that. Members of the organization knew that I was struggling. I had some conversations with my coaches immediately above me. I didn't get into specifics. You're not supposed to, quote-unquote, snitch on your teammates. I worked hard to be friends with Richie Incognito and others. I think it's important to build these friendships with your teammates. So I turned the microscope back on myself. What am I doing wrong that I'm being treated like this?
Well, during the height, again, he did not speak, and so now Super Bowl week we're hearing from Johnathon Martin. Your take on what he had to say?
Well, he didn't say much, really. When I look at the whole deal, one thing in a locker room, you're in a locker room with a bunch of guys, and guys rib each other, we say stuff to each other, and that's just That's the code. That's how it is. It's like you have alligator skin or you have very soft skin. And I've talked to a few other players about this situation, older players, and I mean, and I don't know him, so I just my opinion is what it is that he really didn't want to play football. That's what we come down to. He really didn't want to play football. It's come to a point where this is my way out. I can use this as an excuse, and that's just my opinion, and I can get out of here, and maybe I can get paid. And I can sue, But football is a very physical sport on the field, and the locker room is physical too. And if you can't take it, you shouldn't be in that sport. You should get you another sport to be in.
What are your thoughts on my position? First of all, I don't want to sit there and come across as somebody who's condoning or applauding bullying, because there's no place for that. But at the same time, definitely he comes across as a bit soft, because he should have handled it differently, in my opinion. But also, bigger than that, I think that he appears incredibly disingenuous because of the amount of time it took for him to speak on this issue while everybody's been going through stuff. Richie Incognito, because of the accusations. The teammates who supported him didn't support Johnathon Martin enough. The Miami Dolphins organization, whose season was jeopardized because of it. The NFL, which obviously will go through a culture change because of what this situation provoked. All of those things happened while Johnathon Martin was sitting back and said absolutely positively nothing. And then the time that he chooses to come out and speak is the few days leading into the Super Bowl. I think it comes across as very disingenuous. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree with that, and I agree with one other thing you said. It's no place for bullying anywhere. But like I said, in the locker room, you don't bully. I mean, he's a 300-pound guy.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you bully a 300-pound guy? And one thing, an offensive line is a unit. Mm-hmm. They're a unit. Those guys stick together.
Right.
I mean, in an offensive line, you fight one, you fighting them all. That's how it is in practice. If you get one get in the fight, there come the whole team to fight. And to me, he just was not with his unit. I mean, I think that him and who's the other guy?
Richie Incognito.
Cognito, they were friends. You read the texts, they're going back and forth. This is how they spoke to each other.
I agree with you, but the only thing I would add, in fairness to Johnathon Martin, Richie Incognito was 350. I just wanted to throw that out.
50 extra might have did it. The 50 extra might have did it. Go ahead, Skip.
I just want to throw that out.
I got to get Eric's opinion as a Hall of Famer of what another Hall of Famer, Warren Sapp, said yesterday.
Yeah.
Scathing what I thought was an attack on the credentials or lack thereof of Michael Strahan to get into the Hall of Fame. Your reaction?
Well, I didn't see it, but I'll say this much here. For as Michael Strahan in the Hall of Fame, Michael Strahan is a Hall of Fame player.
Right.
For sure, he is. And, this is how I feel about the Hall of Fame. I just feel like the players, the Hall of Famers, should have more say in going to the Hall of Fame.
I agree.
Reason being is because the writers, they have the player they don't like. I'll just say this. Yeah. When I went to the Hall of Fame, guy told me, one of the writers, he said, Eric, I just want to tell you this. You were a unanimous pick except one guy. He said one guy would not vote for you. And you know why he wouldn't vote for you? Because I held out. Now, what does that have? I said, what does that have to do with playing football? And that's what happens to a lot of players. I didn't like him because he didn't give me an interview. I didn't like him because he ran out of bounds once. I didn't like him because he beat my Broncos. I just think that the players, the Hall of Famers, should have more to say, going into the Hall of Fame.
Agreed.
Totally agree. You're absolutely right. I personally, there's plenty of guys I haven't liked, and I would not hesitate to vote for them, because you should be measured by what you do on the field or the court of play. But I will say this as well. He's absolutely right about Strahan, Skip, deserving to be in the Hall of Fame. He deserves it. And Warren Sapp was wrong because he called him a 4-time Pro Bowler. He's a 7-time Pro Bowler.
4-time
just like
first-team All-Pro.
He's a 4-time first-team All-Pro. He's a 7-time Pro Bowler, just like Warren Sapp. Their stats are virtually identical.
Well, not really.
I'm talking about in that regard.
Are beyond
but I'm talking about in regards to that, and in regards to the Pro Bowls. And I'm looking at Strahan, even though I've never liked the fact how Brett Favre went down for him to get that sack. I hated that. That was one. But there are 141 and a half career sacks. There's nothing to talk about. Michael Strahan is a Hall of Famer.
Most definitely.
Thank you.
Little basketball game tonight in Miami. Kevin Durant on fire versus LeBron James, who struggled on defense here of late. Who will win that personal battle?
Man, you know.
You heard what I had to say. Just follow my lead. Just follow my lead. Just follow my lead. It's all right.
You know, I like KD. I like him a lot. I mean, man, he's a great basketball player. You know, Texas boy. But I just like LeBron. You know, I'm a LeBron guy. I mean, it's like this. It's like this. I mean, you couldn't go wrong with either one. But I'm gonna have to take the heat. I'm gonna have to take
what gets
LeBron.
on my nerves? Literally. You know what gets on my nerves about y'all, man? Y'all listen. It's a regular season game. The day, you know, a few days before the Super Bowl, y'all act like we talking about Game 7 of the NBA Finals. You trying to tell me that it's beyond the realm of comprehension that Kevin Durant could put it on everybody tonight in January? It ain't June Game 7. I'm sorry. KD has the requisite skills to have a good night against the greatest player in the world. Ain't nobody saying that LeBron is going to lose the title because of it, but it could be that the night that he has doesn't compare to KD 11 straight, 30-plus, 4 40-point games. Yeah. Y'all need to chill out.
Yeah. And it could be that he gets shut down tonight. That could happen.
No. Kevin Durant ain't getting shut down.
Well, you know, shut down for him be 27 points.
Well, he's dropping about 35 tonight.
You said 45.
I think Stephen A. said 45 last time, and I think he's leaning toward 50.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to First Take, Bryant Park, New York City. It's 20 degrees outside, feels like 10. We've got a rowdy but respectable audience, and we're having a good time. We're joined now by Rams wideout, Tavon Austin. You just completed your rookie season. And let me just say this. You have the biggest voice in sports supporting you. This man has been on your team.
Well, the second biggest to this guy.
All year long.
Right.
Did you know that?
No, I definitely ain't know that. As I don't really look at TV too much, but I know somebody would have told me that, but he didn't. But now that I know, so
now that you know,
to tell you all about it.
He's going to tell you all about it. But before we went to break, you actually picked the Seahawks to win. So tell us why the Seahawks get the win.
Pretty much, they got the number one defense in the league. They in my division. I got to face them twice a year, and I definitely know what they have. And you know, my brother play on their team, Bruce Irvin. You know, we definitely went to West Virginia together, so I would love for him to get one.
You said you know what Seattle has. What do they have?
A front seven. Them guys are big up front, and then you look at the back end, you got Sherman and all those guys back there, and they can match up pretty well against Denver. So that's how I feel like Seattle going to take the win.
Skip Bayless?
Let me just say. This is a bad man who's sitting here right now.
Aaron Rodgers bad?
I did make the case. I would have at least considered taking you number 1 overall in the draft. So I watched your progress in St. Louis, albeit in your rookie year, and you wind up catching 40 balls. Not bad, not great. You wind up running the football 9 times. Not bad, not great. And game after game I would look for, where is Tavon? What is the problem? What is stopping Tavon from being the Tavon we saw at West Virginia? So I'm going to ask you first, and then I'll give you my opinion. How much do you believe you were underutilized last year, even as a rookie?
For the most part, for me, I can say it was just a patient thing. You know, just a different type of game than what it was in college. You know, I played with Coach Hoganson, and they already knew what I really can do on the field. They seen it week after week. For me, I think it was just had to prove myself, and I don't really think I did that until, you know, the Colts game. You know, but it's kind of was too late. But on top of that, I believe Coach Fisher right now definitely finding out a package just for Tavon, and I just say it's all about patience.
Now go ahead.
I fell out of love with Jeff Fisher because of what I thought he did to my man Vince Young. I felt like I was seeing some Vince Young syndrome operating with Jeff Fisher and you last year, in that Jeff, for young players, especially a quarterback like Vince, and remember, Jeff was never quite on board with drafting Vince in the first place. I thought that Vince had to succeed in spite of his head coach, and he really did. He was really good his rookie year. He's pretty good his second year. But Jeff never, to me, bought completely into Vince. Do you feel any of that could be operating with you going forward the next year or two?
Oh, definitely not. Coach Fisher Bond is crazy. You know, he definitely loved me. He loved the way I practice. He loved the way I play. It just It's just a matter of time till my day really gonna come out. And you know, he loves all the things I do in practice. I practice with the scout team and everything. So I don't think he hold me back at all. So I think this will be my year that I really outbreak.
I hope you say this a year from now.
All right.
What when you look at your skill set and how electrifying you are, particularly in special teams, what kind of an impact do you think you can have on this game moving forward? I'm just looking at the talent that's out there, and you're one of the more electrifying talents on the football field. How good do you believe you can be?
I believe I can be real good in this game. I believe I could have went to the Pro Bowl this year if I didn't get hurt. And a lot of my punt return things didn't get called back, but that's what happened in this game. So me just looking at it from a future reference, you just got to put me in the best position I can be in and make people miss. And, you know, that's one thing Coach Holgorsen did, and that's what Coach Fisher right now is working on now. So I feel like if I get in space, I'd take over from there.
How much of a believer are you guys, not just you, but I'm talking about y'all collectively as a team, including Fisher? What kind of sense do you get about the belief the team has in Sam Bradford?
I mean, we definitely believe in Sam. You know, he had took us down this year, got hurt, but at the same time, you know, we definitely pushing him on. We trying to grow as a team. We still know we're the youngest team in the league, and we got a full and great team. So we just got to do it around all three sides of the ball: special teams, defense, and offense. It just can't blame it all on Sam. They got to work all three ways.
When you're talking about the team, what are the realistic expectations for the Rams this coming season?
Just take game by game. You know, we're not going to look forward to the playoffs or the championship. We're going to come in, we're going to work hard. We're going to start it off with off-season workout while we're going to get back there as a unit. You know, work together, and we're going to take it game by game, and hopefully we go from there.
I'm going to say this to you, man. I have no problem with you making that statement. I'll be damned if I want to hear that from some of the veterans on the squad. It's been a long time since St. Louis has done much on the football field. You understand what I'm saying? You can do that because you're a rookie. But it's some dudes that's been in the league quite a few years. We don't want to hear, well, we're going to take it game by game. I mean, damn. There's got to be some point where expectations are allowed.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right.
All right?
So, yeah, you're right about that.
All right. I'm just saying. Go ahead, Skip.
Who has the bigger game tonight, Kevin Durant or LeBron James?
That's tough. You know, I'm definitely a LeBron fan. I love LeBron, but overall I'm a Melo fan. You know, so I got to keep it home in my area, so I'm going with KD.
Why
Melo? We almost come from the same neighborhood. I played for his basketball team, Carmelo Choice, back in AAU basketball, and you know, and Melo just my man.
Melo's just your man.
Yeah, he just the smoothest guy in the game.
Melo stay in New York?
They gave him 62 the other day, easy.
He stays in New York?
He probably be out L.A.
Ooh, wow. You know something we don't know? You know something Nate Smith don't know? Is he coming to L.A.?
Who said I don't know?
Oh, hey.
I'm looking at the TV.
Yeah, he's just looking at the TV and what they say.
Melo's a bad boy. Melo can play, but Melo needs to get his team, and it ain't his fault. He got to get personnel. But Melo needs to be a part of these conversations we're having about KD and LeBron. Melo scoring 62 is nice, but the New York Knicks need to keep winning basketball games.
Right. That's all it's about, end of the day.
Whiteout,
By the way,
Tavon
KD going to ball tonight.
We love him. Thank you for joining the desk. We appreciate it. Give it up for him. We appreciate it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Bryant Park, New York City. It's time for our favorite part of the show. It's Carrie's Court, where you get an opportunity to ask Skip and Stephen A. whatever questions you want. Our first question is from Christina. She's from Jersey. This one is for Skip Bayless. What is the question?
Woo-hoo! Skip, do you think the Vikings should trade AP?
That was a Viking call, by the way.
Yes.
I heard that, and I should have anticipated that question from that woman in that jersey. I do not think they should trade Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
He's now 28. He'll play at 29 next year. We're talking workout warrior, physical freak of nature, and I believe he has 2 to 3 peak years left for your Minnesota Vikings. He also now has Norv Turner to help rekindle his career, the second half of his career. So Stephen A. Smith, I say no way on the trade.
I say it depends. If somehow, some way, the Minnesota Vikings can find the kind of sucker they were when the Cowboys traded away Herschel Walker to them and got the farm that included ultimately Emmitt Smith and others. Darren Woodson, the guys. If you can find a way to get somebody to give you that boatload of stuff for Adrian Peterson, then I say you do it. But that's the only reason you do it, nothing less, because Adrian Peterson is all day he's big time. He's the best in the game, and you don't let that go for nothing.
I'm sitting here with Ronnie from the Bronx, who got here at 6:45 a.m., so you deserve a question, okay? And because we want to make sure that this question is objective, we're going to give it to Stephen A. Smith. Ask your question.
My question is, are the Spurs overrated? Nothing personal to Skip, because I think they are.
Well,
I don't know. His question.
First of all, we didn't ask you what you thought. All right. Secondly, it's blasphemous to call the San Antonio Spurs overrated in the month of January. It's January. The San Antonio Spurs play for April, May, and June. They're not the Knicks. They don't have to play for January and February. They get to sit here. Their multiple 50-win seasons commands a level of trust and respect that allows them to say to everybody, can y'all just chill out and wait until April? Because they've competed for championships. They've won 4. They deserve more respect than for anybody to ever imply that they are overrated.
You know your security man, the large fellow yesterday who took out the kid wearing the Tebow jersey? I'm thinking maybe we should remove this man. But I'm gonna answer this question. My Spurs are not overrated as much as they are now undermanned. I'm going to remind you, they are down 3 of their younger starters, starting with the guy you have ridiculed, Tiago Splitter. He's only 29 years of age. He is out. Danny Green, age 26, is out. And Kawhi Leonard, age 22, is out. And Tony Parker looks gassed off the Euro championship that he won for France. Manu Ginobili tweaked his hamstring again last night after another sensational stretch that he played. Am I disappointed? Am I concerned that they haven't beaten good teams? Yeah, I am. But guess what? They have now beaten Memphis 3 times, and guess where Memphis won last night handily? At Portland. The Grizzlies are back in business, so watch that.
Underrated,
Tiago
undermanned is what they're
Splitter.
saying. Okay. So we got a question here for Greg. You like the Steelers, I think. I'm not for sure.
Fellow Steeler fan, Stephen
Okay.
A, man.
So Stephen A, he wants to talk to you.
Stephen A, this is a question for you and also for Skip also. What do you think is the biggest need for the Steelers in the upcoming draft this year?
I'm of the mindset, Skip Bayless, that they need some young bloods in their secondary.
Yeah.
I love Ryan Clark.
Very true.
I love Ryan Clark. I love Troy Polamalu. I haven't forgiven Ike Taylor yet for getting schooled by Tim Tebow.
Uh-oh.
But I will tell you, I do respect him nevertheless. In the end, however, you've got to get young.
Yeah.
I need some young assassins in the Steelers secondary. Some help on the defensive line. A pass rusher wouldn't hurt either. And I think they need a bigger target at wideout because Antonio Brown and Emmanuel Sanders are both relatively small, and I think Big Ben needs a bigger target.
Yeah.
But Stephen A. Smith, your Steelers got young and got much better at running back off last year's draft. Le'Veon Bell can play. As long as he can stay healthy, that was a home run draft pick. But now I look at needs, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, defensive back. You could start any of those places because they need to start rebuilding around Le'Veon and obviously Ben Roethlisberger.
All right, next question. Take a look at this guy. Is he prepared for the winter? I'm not really for sure. Look at everything you're wearing right now. I'm not really for sure. You got a question for whom, Kennedy from New York?
Skip. Is Jay Cutler worth the big contract he got from the Bears?
I didn't listen.
That's a Bears fan question. You know what? I still say Josh McCown should have been allowed to finish the season.
Right.
We disagreed on that one.
You agree?
But I still believe in Jay Cutler long term, especially with Mark Trestman. I was seeing a grown-up Jay Cutler under Trestman this year. And again, how do you replace a Jay Cutler going forward? I don't think you can. I think he's going to turn into an elite quarterback as he is in his early 30s with Mark Trestman. Good idea to re-sign him long term.
I have no problem with him being re-signed long term. I understand that it's something that the Chicago Bears had to do. Do I think he was worth the money? Absolutely not. Why do I feel that way? Why do I feel that way? Because Skip looks at the fact that he's in his early 30s. I look at the fact that this is his 8th year in the league. I look at the fact that he has one playoff win on his resume. I look at the fact that there's pretty much no difference between him and Tony Romo. A matter of fact, the way I look at it, the only reason he does deserve his money is because Jerry Jones gave Tony Romo his money. So the market was relatively set. But in the end, Jay Cutler is a quality quarterback in this league who hasn't won a thing. He's just talented, but he's not a winner. If that's your definition of success, good riddance. Have a nice day.
All right, we got a special question from Cassidy. Cassidy, you are a military spouse. You're with IAVA. Your wife is a vet. You have a question, and hopefully Stephen A. can answer this succinctly for you. For Stephen A. Smith, go ahead.
Stephen A. Smith, do you feel that Floyd Mayweather ducks people like Sergio Martinez?
Absolutely not. I think that Floyd Mayweather is a magician in the boxing ring. I think he's an astute businessman, and I will remind everybody, I'll educate people on a story somebody told me just last night. They said that when Sugar Shane Mosley was knocking a knockout artist in the second coming of Sugar Ray at the 135-pound level, nobody in the world wanted to fight him. And they called Floyd Mayweather joking around, and Floyd Mayweather said, I'll fight him. Floyd Mayweather ducks nobody. Floyd Mayweather is just a businessman. He's brilliant at it. He makes money, and that's what it is. But be clear. As a boxer, Floyd Mayweather is the best on the planet Earth. Period. Right now.
Floyd Mayweather is the greatest ever ducker of punches and opponents. He did duck Sergio Martinez. He has ducked Manny Pacquiao for 5 years. Now he's even ducking Timothy Bradley, because you know and I know Floyd's scared of Timothy Bradley. Come on.
Floyd Mayweather, let me get this straight. Let me get this straight. Timothy Bradley, who almost got knocked into Europe by Provodnikov a couple of fights ago. All right, this guy scares Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Floyd Mayweather Jr. First of all, you can't hit him. The man is a bad man. And by the way, don't be jealous. We got to do away with the jealousy. Floyd Mayweather at the end of the day will make about minimum $40 million a fight. He'll make about $300 to $500 million. And oh, by the way, he does it without even getting touched. I know that hurts you all, but get over it. He's a bad man. Period.
Floyd Mayweather is the greatest defensive fighter ever. But let me ask our crowd here. Can Floyd punch? No! Case closed.
We have one more thing. Cassidy, who won the debate? Who do you side with, Skip or Stephen A.?
I side with Skip. I think Leonard would have fought everybody, including Martinez.
Leave it at there.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Let him have it.
I don't recall caring one bit what you think. Nobody asked for your opinion. He's supposed to ask the question. Nobody cares what you think. Give up the microphone.
You know what?
Stop hating on Floyd. Just get over it.
I care what he said. That man knows his boxing.
Yeah, what you gonna tell? What are you gonna say next? That Pacquiao's awake?
Is Pacquiao awake? Or no? Is he awake or no, Cassidy?
I think he's awake.
Okay, Cassidy says he's awake. Thank you so much. We love it. Ladies and gentlemen, First Take on the road, Omaha. How many times will we hear that during the Super Bowl? Broncos fans representing, Seahawks fans representing, First Take representing for the Super Bowl. We are back at Celsius Restaurant. I love this crowd. I can get used to this. We asked all day long, who wins tonight's battle between KD and King James? And the results are in. 55% say that it will be KD. He will have the bigger game in the MVP showdown. Stephen A., your take, if they get it right.
Well, I appreciate the American public understanding who knows what. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? This is me. I'm up here talking. I'm telling you what KD's going to do tonight, and I mean it. So I'm glad that they're listening and that they're paying attention. Keep it coming.
So you believe KD will outscore LeBron by what?
I don't know. I mean, he's LeBron. He's going to have 25 to 30. He's going to be formidable. I understand that. I just think that right now, KD is doing what he's doing on another level, and I think tonight is his night. That doesn't mean they're going to beat him in the finals or something like that, but tonight is KD's night. I think he answers the bell, and without Russell Westbrook, I think we'll see a level of aggression from him, and I think we'll see how LeBron responds to that challenge, because I do think LeBron will respond, but KD is going to get his.
Okay, I will give you this. Kevin Durant will win the battle, but I believe Miami will win the game at home tonight. I believe Kevin Durant will get 30. I'll give you 3-0 on the dot. I think LeBron will get 27, but I think Miami will win this game by 10 points. And I remind you, LeBron James was angry last year that he did not get Defensive Player of the Year. I think he will step it up 3 notches tonight. He's struggled on defense for the last month, but tonight KD will earn every last point of the 30 that he will wind up with.
If D-Wade is healthy enough to be some semblance of D-Wade, Miami wins tonight. But if it's no D-Wade and it's KD up against LeBron, KD wins tonight.
I got a feeling we're going to see the real D-Wade fairly healthy.
Well, then they'll win tonight. Miami will
we
win
talk about it tomorrow. For now, we are done from Bryant Park. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been awesome. Carrie champion Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith,